My idea behind the BC1 bass compressor is to use it as a master compressor. That will improve not only your sound, but also your playing experience, both on stage or in the studio. Whenever I set out to develop a new product, I think about what would help me when I'm on stage playing in front of an audience. How can I improve my sound? How can I improve my experience as a performing artist? In my book, my biggest inspiration is my sound. I noticed that when I record or when I hear a live recording, it normally sounds good, but perhaps a bit uneven. Maybe it's down to the fact that today most mixing and outboard gear is digital. We rarely have natural compression from pushed analog circuits these days. Now, all our preamps are 100% analog, and the same goes for the BC1 bass compressor. What is a master compressor? Well, it's a different quality than your normal stompbox compressor. It's the kind of compressor that your sound guy will add to make you sit better in the mix, both in the studio and live. Compression of your sound, and not only your instrument. I had the chance to ask Martin J. about his experience with the BC1 and compressors in general.
So Sten asked me to describe this compressor from a musician's point of view. And as a bass player, I'm used to stomp boxes that sits on a pedal board. They're small, they're convenient, but they sound squashed and two-dimensional. This product is a whole different world. I feel that it adds mojo to my sound. It brings out the small nuances in my playing, as any good compressor would do, but this one does it in a very musical way. And it gives me a sense of confidence when I'm on stage and play. And it just sits better in the mix.
Let's start out by going through the various controls on the BC1. The first control is the threshold. The threshold sets the point where the compression starts to kick in, and you can adjust it from -20 to +20 dB. Next, we have the attack control. It determines the amount of time it takes for the compressor to start working after it receives the audio signal. This one you can adjust from 0.1 to 25 milliseconds, which is quite long. If you have a very fast or short attack, it will kill all your dynamics, and you're not able to get a pop when you hit the string. A slow or longer attack time, it will preserve your dynamics in your sound while still controlling you, and you have your note or the pop back. The third control is the release. Now, the release determines how quickly the compressor lets go. You can adjust this from 100 milliseconds to 1.2 seconds. A fast or short release time means the compressor stops compressing almost immediately after it started. And to create this pumping effect, you need a slow or a long release time. The level control is kind of self-explanatory. Now we've added a second level control, and we named it boost. It's a clean boost at the end of the internal signal chain of the BC1. Therefore, it doesn't drive the compressor harder, but it simply allows you to punch in a second level, can be louder, can be softer, but without affecting the amount of compression in your sound. We've also added the option of running the compressor in parallel. What is parallel? Well, imagine you have two tracks. One is your original bass sound, and the other is your bass sound compressed. And now you have the option of mixing the two channels together. Many pedals use a mix control. Now, I want to maintain my original signal as much as possible. So when you use the BC1 in parallel mode, the output level determines the amount of compression you want to add to your dry signal. The dry signal runs undisturbed throughout the BC1, and you blend in how much of my compressed sound do I want to mix with my dry signal. My experience is that whenever players use their compressor in parallel, it's always on. It becomes a part of your sound rather than an effect. Now, some of you may ask, where's the gain reduction meter? And in my opinion, you don't need a meter. It's your ears and your fingers that should determine the settings, not your eyes. Now let's try and use the BC1 the way I would use it, as an always-on master compressor, placed as the last unit in your chain, post your preamp, not as an effect, but as a master compressor that controls your entire sound. Now we use the XLR line input, and this time the transformer balanced DI is the output for the front of house or a DAW. When you compress your entire sound, you compress much less. We want the compressor to help you to sit better in the mix by making the output from each string more even. We don't want it to kill your dynamic playing. Now, you might think that this is done only in studio recordings, but I can assure you that your front of house sound guy, he will compress your sound to control you. Wouldn't it be cool if you had the controls yourself? And that the compression is done in the analog domain rather than the digital. And on top of that, if it would make your performance as an artist so much easier and much more inspiring. This is what the BC1 is all about.